Hello and welcome everyone to the Noble Helium quarterly webinar. Today I will be joined by Executive Chairman Dennis Donald, as well as co-founders and fellow board members Justyn, Wood and Walter Jennings. We will look to answer all the hard questions today that have been received over the past week and obviously in prior quarters. I'll invite my co-host on now. If you could unmute your mics. I'll bring you onto the screen. At the end of this webinar, a recording will be made available on the Noble Helium website as well as their social channels. You're able to ask questions throughout the webinar by clicking on the Q&A button, as well as I will attend to any questions following the webinar. Realistically, the number of questions received were many, but they all sort of circled round a number of sort of main questions, which we'll attend to. So we're going to open by answering the questions. A bit unconventional. We normally do the presentation followed by questions. Today we're going to start with the questions. And the first question, which I'll throw open to Dennis to start with, is when are we drilling, Dennis?
Yeah, and I think this is probably the question that's been asked most by the shareholders that I've talked to over the past couple of months, and I've talked to a great many. So my answer to that is as soon as we're able. A mobilization deposit's been paid to the bore expert rig, and it's being readied for transportation as we talk to the Rukwa. Mobilization is expected to take 4 to 6 weeks. I would say, however, that final legacy issues are being dealt with, notably the extension of the VAT loan. And we see this as the final issue. And once that's dealt with, then we can undertake the mobilization of the bore expert rig to the site. A deposit's been paid to the rig company. Sorry, after you, Gareth.
So I was going to dig in on that. So, you know, you've been busy this year. You've just probably described it as one of your hardest in your corporate career, and it's an extensive career. So that, you know, the Marriott rig tick, now obviously the Obsidian loan tick, it's been resolved. Now the one outstanding thing is, you know, the return of the VAT from the Tanzanian government. What is your feeling around that? Where does that sit?
Yeah, so we've been working hard behind the scenes with PwC, and we've lodged an appeal. And yesterday, the Tanzanian elections were undertaken. And what we see, and the advice that we've been given, is that probably over the next couple of months, our appeal will be dealt with. We believe that we have an extremely strong case, and along with all the other, we haven't been singled out, along with the other resource players in Tanzania. We're hoping and we believe that the VAT issue will be dealt with.
And certainly the VAT issue would go a long way to resolving the sort of outstanding VAT loan that's covering that sort of refund for now. So obviously you're dealing with that, and I get that, you know, and that's sort of reflecting on the drilling program and when we can get drilling. If things sort of, you know, the fear that many shareholders have been sort of sharing with me is what happens if we get into the wet season? Maybe you can speak to that, Justyn.
Yeah, thanks, Gareth. Yeah, so I guess when we, just a little bit of looking backwards, when we were drilling previously and operating previously, we were dealing with large, you know, petroleum-sized equipment, and we were working on the basis that we really wanted to be out of the field by late October, November, before the main wet season started. I guess what's shifted recently is that we're not dealing with petroleum-sized equipment anymore. We're dealing with water well drilling-sized equipment, and for a number of reasons well, there's good reasons for that. What that means in terms of the wet season is that we are not captive to this sort of end of the year wet season rains that we thought we were. So our contractors, East African, completely used to drilling through the wet seasons, and so they've got lightweight equipment. We've got all-weather roads to our well sites. And so it turns out, and working closely with Vore Expert, we've had some really lengthy discussions with them about this. Really, ideally we want to be out of the field by sort of mid to late February next year. So the concerns about the upcoming drilling wet season have really sort of gone away.
Yeah, so drilling through the rain is certainly feasible. And look, I know we're going to touch on this later in the presentation, but there's a vast difference between the first drill campaign, where it was a completely new sort of drilling campaign it was a pioneering campaign, but this campaign is sort of based on something you've already, you've taken a lot of learnings from that first campaign, isn't that right?
Yeah, that's right. And we've got infrastructure out there now. We had nothing before. So, when we first time out there, there's weather forecasts, but there's then what actually happens. And I guess we've built relationships with the locals. We understand how the weather works better. And most importantly, it's this lightweight equipment, and the fact that we've got an East African drilling contract who's completely used to drilling in this part of the world is saying it's a non-issue for him to be drilling this time of the year.
Okay. Turning to our next question, Dennis, another main question that's been received is, how will the drilling be funded?
Yeah, so look, we've been working really hard with the market and potential investors, and I've been calling on previous investors that I've worked with, and I'm very fortunate to have been working in Australia for over 16 years now. And I have a good infrastructure in London, and indeed the other directors in the business and my other founder in Warrego has an excellent portfolio of investors. And we believe that when the final legacy issues are dealt with, and the VAT syndicate, we will be able to deal with funding the drilling program very quickly.
Yeah, so I mean, raising money is never easy at the best of times, particularly in the current market. It would be fair to say that the money would be easier. It would have been easier to raise without the financial roadblocks in place. With those financial roadblocks cleared or on the way to being cleared, do you have a sense of being more confident that job is easier or will be easier?
Raising money is never easy, but the fact of the matter is that helium is really getting resonance in the market. And as I go around and talk to investors, big and small, high net worths, through to big funds, they're seeing helium as a real game changer coming into the future. And Walter will go on and talk about that in terms of the market. So I think we're just at the point where helium's going to be seen, if I could use this term, as one of the critical metals. And even at a political level, people are seeing the importance of helium. And because of the excellent work that's been done, redefining what we actually have, what the market is really seeing this as a great potential investment.
Moving to the next question, it's probably one for you, Justyn. We touched lightly just then on the difference between the two campaigns, but the question to you is, what's been learned?
Yeah, so as I just touched on, Gareth, when we drilled last time, there were a lot of uncertainties, a whole long list of uncertainties that we were dealing with. We didn't know for sure that we wouldn't find hydrocarbons. We didn't know the pressure regime in the North Rukwa Basin. We also so we needed a petroleum style rig and service companies to help us through that process. What we've learned now is we don't have any. Well, there's a low risk of hydrocarbons. That's dangerous. And we understand the pressure regime is pretty well normally pressured now. So we're able to move to a much lighter weight footprint with this lightweight rig and surfaces equipment. Now,
if I can jump in, I was just going to jump in, Justyn. Just so the sort of experiences in mining this week in New South Wales, you can't sort of put a price on safety. You're responsible for many people on site, and there was sort of up to 100 people on site on that first drill campaign, wasn't there? And so you can't take those lives lightly. Everything you do had to be sort of crossed T'd and dotted I's to make sure that that everyone was safe. I don't think that's sort of acknowledged between
No,
what's happened then and what's happening now.
you bet. Like, and that is an
So many
unseen thing.
unknowns.
Yeah, so many unknowns. That's an unseen. Like, yes, it was cost a lot of money to go and build our own infrastructure and make it safe. The last thing we want to do is a great big candle out in the middle of Western Tanzania. So it's expensive, but we understand that risk now. We have it, and that's not to say that the equipment we're using now is not unsafe. It's very competent, very capable of handling that. It's certainly large enough, and Dennis has insisted that we take additional safety measures. We'll now have an annular preventer on that rig as well, just as a backup. Like, we don't think we'll find hydrocarbons. We don't think we'll find, well, this evidence suggests we won't be finding high pressures, but we're going to be safe.
Yeah, so with all these knowns, all those unknowns now known, you've been able to reduce costs considerably.
A lot. Like, we're down to 10%. So we're going to drill 5 wells at less than 90% cheaper than it cost us to drill 2 wells in our first campaign. But as I said, we also have infrastructure out there now. We've got a base. In fact, we've got 2 bases out there, which helps a lot. And we've got our relationships, contractors, etc., all established. So yeah, we're well set up.
And the different approaches has sort of negated the weather impacts. You can drill through the rain, as we've touched on. I think moving to point 4 on the slide, what has been what has been a real plus this time around is also that you're not alone. You've got a sort of experienced team around you. If you could talk to that.
Yeah, so I guess the lesson learned is that we were doing a lot with a very small team previously, and Dennis has brought in kind of industry standard, I suppose, peer review process, stage gates, to make sure that we drill deep, excuse the pun, and understand exactly, review everything that we are doing, every assessment, every assumption from a technical perspective. So, we went through we had a peer review team of 7 individuals, vast amount of experience in oil and gas and helium, and 2-day deep dive process to review all what we're drilling, the geological reasons for what we're doing, why we specifically said we want to find gas, and the team's been extremely supportive. Picked up some very helpful insights as well, and it's just given us great confidence. Personally, it's given me great confidence that we're in the right track. We're doing the right things.
And Dennis, if you could speak to the team, they were sort of handpicked from your background and career in drilling. These guys are heavyweight sort of peers to have around, so very fortunate to have them.
Yeah, look, I'm an old guy, and the good thing is I know lots of old retired guys that are aboard that bring a huge amount of experience. And I was very fortunate to persuade some of my Dutch friends to come in and work with Justyn and the team. And honestly, I know that every country has their own cultural personality, and I can tell you that when you deal with the Dutch, they're going to tell you what they think, and they are extremely rigorous. So I think Justyn and the rest of the team would agree. I brought in some amazing guys with huge amount of experience, and they were extremely complimentary about the work that Justyn did in terms of the petrophysics. So we believe we're drilling the right wells in the right place with the right design, with the best chance of success. And I guarantee you that the guys that I brought in, if they didn't think that, they're going to be telling you pretty quick.
I was just going to say, Walter, you did pretty well in finding Dennis. He came with an open wallet, but also the expertise that he's brought to the table. It's been very helpful, hasn't it, to say the least?
Unbelievably helpful. I think it is a point in time that changed everything for the company. Dennis has brought with him the skills and the integrity that we want. We named this company Noble Helium for a reason. It's a noble gas, but we want noble people. And what we have on our new board is noble people who care about the shareholders. So it's been a breath of fresh air, and the workload that's been carried by Dennis and the team over the last 9 months has been horrendous.
Yeah.
Nobody, by the way, none of them have been paid, and
Yeah,
no
I was going
one's
to say without a
complained.
pay packet as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We can be hard markers in Australia, as you know, Dennis. We don't give love easy as Australians, but you're trying hard. I appreciate that. As a shareholder
Yeah.
myself, I certainly appreciate it. Look,
Yeah.
and look, I didn't mean to embarrass you, Dennis. I just wanted to acknowledge that. Ending on ending on point five, certainly, Justyn, the Rukwa. I mean, you've been in love with it for a long time, but the more you spend with it, the more you see, and the more that you realise what a phenomenal geological play it is.
Yeah, I'll just caveat that. I mean, I've tried to remain objective. Love is something you're trained out of pretty quickly early in your career because you get attached to things, and it. Anyway, so yes, the Rook was definitely a very unique system. It's completely different to everywhere else that is producing helium. Like most of in fact, all of the other basins where helium's found, those basins are hundreds of millions, if not billions, of years old. What's unique about the Rukwa is that we're in an active rift system, and as Chris Ballantyne, I like to quote Chris Ballantyne, rifting is helium release on steroids. This is a really active rift system. Clearly, we've proven helium systems there, so there's this called the helium engine that's actively generating and has been for the last 10 million years, and particularly the last million years. It's really kicked off.
Would it be fair to describe this in your sense that it's perhaps the best helium, the best place to look for helium in the world?
I think so, yeah. If we're looking for helium and producible helium, most importantly, because the reservoirs are young, they're not tight as a tombstone, which makes a massive difference. You can have relatively low concentrations of helium, but you can produce it fast and get the flow rates that it's about producing molecules to get to commerciality. So it's been a massive lesson learned. Continuing to learn about how the helium system works, and the last year particularly, I've had the opportunity to really step back and review everything and review particularly the charge model and how we should be targeting gas phase. So it's
the unique phenomenon is that in my understanding, and I'm a layman, is the gases escape from deeper basement rocks and escape to a more shallow trap, and that's where the gas is.
That's right.
Is sort of more free flowing. The tighter basement rocks, the helium is very tight and would be hard to produce commercially. But the fact that it's gone to a shallower trap and is sort of looser, in my terms, that makes commerciality closer in view, doesn't it?
It does. Yep. So.
I wasn't the best at science at school, but I've got that much out of our sort of get-togethers.
Gareth,
to the next
one
question.
moment. Excuse me, Gareth. I'd like to just bring one thing out in what Justyn said. Our helium is in gas phase.
Yeah.
Justyn, can I ask you to say, one or two sentences on that? I think it's quite important. You did mention that, but I'd like to bring that out particularly, if I may.
Yeah, it's very key, no doubt. It leads us to the next question, Justyn, and put you back in the hot seat. We're sort of in agreement that we're in perhaps the best country in the world for finding helium. How do you know now that you're in the right places, that you're drilling in the right places? You had a couple of stabs, and now you're looking to go again.
Yeah. So
what gives you confidence?
Yeah, so just touching on exactly what Dennis just said, we have always aimed to find gas phase helium. We see that as the path to near-term commercialization. We didn't. Well, we actually probably came closer than we really initially thought at Embalele, and there's evidence for and against a gas cap remaining there at Embalele. We need to go back and appraise that. If it's to confirm whether or not it's free gas. There's other benefits in that as well, like we absolutely whatever the foaming event, that shallow event, the helium in the mud gas went off the scale. So that is, we want to know what that concentration was as well. So there's definitely a lot of helium. The helium system is pushing helium into the Mbalele. Did we find it in gas phase? We don't know for sure. I think in the final analysis, Mbalele, it didn't fail because of a lack of charge. It probably failed because of a lack of top seal. Unfortunately, the seal development was not what we needed it to be. But we may have found something in the very shallow there. And as I said, to maximise the value of that opportunity, we need to go and appraise it. Applying the revised charge model, which I'll talk about shortly. I think it pointed us to locations further about 30 kilometres to the southeast at Kanumbo, which we then went and sampled some bubbles. The locals talked about bubbles coming out of the ground, and we went and sampled those, and indeed that's where we expected to find them, and they providing us direct and clear and unequivocal evidence that the helium charge system is focusing on that area as well. So I think we are drilling in the right locations. And I guess, we've selected these locations based on fundamental geology, looking at reservoir, seal, trap, charge. What's then nice is when you get independent sort of verification of that in the form of amplitude responses, for example, in the seismic. And this is a couple, Kanumbo A, B, and an offshore lead that we can't get to just at this moment, which are clearly showing strong amplitudes that, without going into the details, in 2 dimensions they give us bright spots. In 3 dimensions they help to map out the gas water contact, what we call a conformance to structure. So we've all of the leads, or all of the targets in Kanumbo that we're about to drill. So this is, I'm talking Kanumbo now, Mbalele we've touched on. They are showing, not only were they selected from a ground up basis in terms of the fundamental geology, but each of them has at least 2 independent geophysical indicators that would be elsewhere. These are uncalibrated at the moment. We've got to go and drill them, but elsewhere we would be saying, well, that looks like gas. So I think, the charge model is now hanging together. And Kanumbo is demonstrating giving us the indications we would like to see. And we know that Kanumbo, that there is helium in the system with the gas bubbles at surface.
Now, there might not be too many who understand this graph other than you and other sort of world-class geophysicists, but can you break it down for the great unwashed like myself?
Yeah, sorry, I know this is there is an element of our audience that likes to understand what's going on. And so here is a summary of where we're at. And yes, the peer review team absolutely understood this schematic. So on the right-hand side is our sort of gross charge model. We've got these helium fluids that are being driven by partial unroofing of the crust with the East African rift system, or the Tanzania Rukwa rift system pulling apart. Crucially, we found hydrogen in the Mbalele wells in the mud gas. That's a tracer. It gives us clues about where those fluids are coming from, and so it's helping us confirm the charge model. Now on the left-hand side is a zoomed-in look at Kanumbo, and what we're seeing there are actually 2 independent structures charged by 2 separate faults with potential for fluids coming up both. We know for sure that fluids are coming up one because we got bubbles at surface. What is then confirmational is that each one of those targets there, and there's actually 7 different reservoir levels from 180 meters down to about 600 meters that have these independent, semi-independent geophysical indicators like flat spots, amplitude cutoff, conformant to structure, and what we call a class 2 AVO response. Now, these are uncalibrated, but this is the sort of thing we'd like to see going into the drilling program. So confidence, we've got reasonable confidence that we'll find some gas, and every indication that we'll find helium in that gas. So I think we're on we're in the right place.
Can I just
yes,
go
certainly.
back to one of the things that Justyn mentioned? He mentioned Chris Ballantyne. For all those listening to us, Chris Ballantyne is a world-leading expert geophysicist. He specializes in helium and hydrogen. We employed he and his partner from Durham University, John Gluyas, some time back to do a 6-month survey of the entire Rukwa, not just our licenses. And that's when he made the statement, this area is helium on steroids. And these are two of the leading scientists in the world. And they see this basin as a world-class find if we can prove it up in the way we're attempting to do. And now with the information and learnings we have, that's another endorsement on this area of the world being very rich in helium.
If we can move to the next question, Justyn, how long will the drilling take?
Yeah, and I'll just touch on something there from Wal. So we proved this here. There is actually more along the margin for us to look at. So we're budgeting 10 days per well. There's a little bit of a finger in the air with that. Hopefully we can do them a little bit cheaper. The good news is that the rig contract is much more aligned with the company and the company's agenda rather than the drilling company's agenda. So, but yeah, roughly 10 days per well is what we're budgeting.
You probably touched on this lightly, and certainly, Walter's expressed his sort of understanding of how prospective the Rukwa is, but we'll touch on it again. What are the chances of a discovery?
Yeah, look, in terms of chances of discovery, we've got the right indications for. We've got the right fundamentals. We've got the right then supporting evidence for gas in the subsurface. We've got to go and prove it. There's no guarantees in exploration, but if we do find gas, I'm reasonably confident we'll find helium in it as well. I guess the next question we often get is, are we aiming what are the chances of commercializing this? It would be imprudent to try and answer that at this point in time, but we wouldn't be doing this if we didn't think that was a real chance, real opportunity.
Yeah, I think the chances are very good. I've spent most of my life as an explorationist, and I wouldn't be putting my time, energy, and resources into this if we didn't think we had a fantastic chance of proving up, as Walter and Justyn say, one of the biggest, maybe the biggest helium resource in the world.
And while I've got you, Dennis, the forward strategy, you've touched on it before in previous webinars, but it's worthwhile going through it again because it is a clear strategy.
Yeah, in a few sentences, what I would say is obviously deal with the issues of the day, respecting our supporters in the VAT group and dealing with those good people. And in the near term, discover and monetize the shallow gas-phased helium in the western margin. Once we've done that, we would look to commercialize that as soon as possible. We're already talking to the people that grab the helium container and sell it on the market. We're well advanced in discussions with off-takers who'll essentially take anything that we can deliver. And in tandem with exploiting the western margin, we're actually talking now. We're not hanging about. We're anticipating success, and we're talking to major farming partners for drilling the deeper, more expensive, but game-changing wells on the eastern margin. And I believe once we've shown success on the western margin, our chances of getting a major farming on the eastern margin will increase significantly. 86% of our unrisked summed up mean prospective resources in the eastern margin, and that's what will give us the world-class scale. But we can't play down the western margin. What the western margin will do is help us prove up the eastern margin and will get us cash flow within 18 months once we've proven that we have the helium there. And given the scale and with the resurgence of Noble, we're absolutely confident that a farming could be achieved on the eastern margin, and we're working really hard. And we've got a lot of people watching us.
So look, a lot of confidence around the size of the resource, and the sort of potential we're sitting on. That feeds into your part, Walter, and just talk to just how big the market is. It's all very well to have what could be the biggest resource in the world, but what does that mean market-wise? And what is the potential market-wise?
Well, first of all, as Dennis said earlier, people are waking up finally to the importance of helium. It's sort of been not sexy enough for some people, but they are now waking. Since the demise of the US they had control of the global market for a very long time, 100 years. People started looking for helium. Until that point in time, nobody looked for helium. They looked for gas. And in a very few, as we now know, very few natural gas fuels do have low volumes of helium, around about 0.3%. So we didn't have to look for it. But without America, and now with the dependence on Qatar and Russia and Algeria as the major suppliers of helium, we have concerns, or the market has concerns. In terms of the size of the market, right now, if you compare it to natural gas, of course, it's tiny. It's 6 BCF per annum, but the value of helium is anywhere from 50 to 100 times that of natural gas. So it's highly profitable. The fact is that we've had 4 shortages. We've had an embargo of Qatar back in 2017. Now we're seeing some oversupply, but it's not great. It's at this point in time, the demand is 6 BCF, supply is 6.5. And that is really just a temporary situation that will change. That as new technologies and so on draw on more and more helium within the next year to two, by the end of 27, latest 28, all of that surplus will be eaten up. Mainly it's coming from China pumping helium Russia pumping China, pumping helium into China at very low prices, and so the market and the statistics show that that's a temporary situation. So
I mean, people don't. Many may not realise, and I'm sure many shareholders in Noble realise just how much helium is used in the manufacture of computer chips, and certainly as more computer chips are made, they're in everything these days. You need more helium to manufacture those chips. Obviously, increasing use for MRIs as people get older, they need more MRIs, and they consume an incredible amount of helium. But really, what you've been looking at more recently could really be transformational for the helium industry, could be easily the significant users of helium moving forward, and could break all these forecasts apart.
It's going to. And for example, we're talking about semiconductors. MRI has been the number one consumer of helium for years. Semiconductors have caught up and will exceed the volume of MRI use, even though there'll be more MRIs and whatever. But at the end of the day, we've got new technologies coming fast. Just when we first started looking at this, fusion, I would mention fusion and people would look at me and smirk and go, oh yeah, it's been coming for 50 years. Well, guess what? It's no more than 5 years away. And fusion is in a particular type of fusion, the tokamak system, which is a Russian invention, absolutely has to use a lot of helium to run a fusion reactor. So that's on the horizon. And if you have a look at either ITER or Commonwealth Fusion, you will be amazed at where they're up to with fusion. And so that's going to be a world-class change and a very big consumer over time of helium. Quantum computing. I mean, this is an amazing thing. As they get stronger and stronger with their qubits instead of zeros and ones, they're finding that they can solve problems that would take 1,000 years for current computers to solve. So we're going to solve problems much, much faster. Change is going to be more rapid, and quantum computers again run hot. They have to have helium. So it's these are new factors in growth.
You've looked closely, aside from the fusion energy. It may seem unbelievable, but certainly gathering a lot of momentum, and there was a major conference in Paris just this year for airships discussions, and serious money, hundreds of millions of dollars are flowing into the industry, and those airships need helium.
Yes, absolutely. And it's forecast that within the next decade, there'll be between 780 and 1,000 airships carrying freight, doing humanitarian aid across the world. And for mining, they are a sensational opportunity, because some models can lift up to 60 tons. They fly on helium. So we got 780 to 1,000 airships that are going to need topping up with helium to fly, and they're big. Sergey Brin, who is the co-founder of Google, has his pet, and it's called the Pathfinder. He's flying. It's now received its airworthy certificate in the US. He's been flying it around the San Francisco area. It's 400 feet long. It's a massive ship, and they're going to be bigger. They're moving the production line out further from where it is at the moment in California, and they're going to start.
I just asked him, Walter, have you got his number on speed dial? You give him a call.
Yeah, mate. We are doing everything we can to find it and to get to him, and we will. And then there's
because these things won't fly without helium. I'd be very surprised if they're not knocking on your door soon.
Well, just to digress, a good example of the geopolitical risk on helium at the moment needs to be addressed, and we want to address that once we've proven up the Rukwa. But if you go back in time to the 1920s, when the Hindenburg was designed, it was designed to fly on helium. What happened was that the Americans were the only people who had helium, and they had a ban on supplying Germany because of the particular government that was in place. But the designer of the Hindenburg wasn't satisfied with that, because he knew flying it on hydrogen was very dangerous. He went to Washington and he won over the American government's agreement to supply helium to Germany. The German government at that time said, no thanks, it's too expensive. So the inevitable happened. The Hindenburg was a success until there was a spark. So no airships are going to be flying on hydrogen or anything else but helium going forward. But it just shows you that America controlled the market, and it's possible that Russia and Qatar and others could have too much control of the market. We have to make sure that we address the geopolitical risk that exists out there today for helium, and we will.
So if we could sum up in conclusion, Justyn, what would you say to shareholders or prospective investors to keep the faith in Noble?
Hang in there. We're learning, and we're getting better. And hang in there.
And Walter?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, as an investor myself, I've had, I've lost money, I've made money, and our share price is ridiculous. If I were, and I am, a substantial shareholder, I just put the shares in a drawer because I am so confident we are going to win this, that ultimately one day those penny shares will become very valuable. So it's a matter of patience, and I understand shareholders out there in the market, you know, they're impatient, they like to get the money in quickly, but these big plays take time and money, and we've had a few roadblocks that we've had to clear. We've only been running the company since February.
Well, certainly there's major catalysts ahead with the drilling. Certainly significant upside if we can get that right. Dennis, you're the exec chairman, you get the final word. How would you summarise Noble Helium's chances or potential?
I think the chances and potential are excellent. Look, we want to build on the work from the previous board. I think we're in the right market at the right time, and if we undertake the forthcoming drilling program in the correct way and prove this up, I think that we will have a helium resource of the sort of scale that the massive helium users that Walter's articulated will want. We've got to treat the VAT syndicate and some of the one or two of the legacy issues with respect and deal with them. I believe that we can do that, and I believe that we'll be getting drilling soon. And I'm incredibly excited about where this company can go.
Well, very good words to end on. I'd like to thank everyone for the participation today. It's been an attempt to sort of be a more open and transparent company, answering shareholders' questions. Look, everyone's looking forward to drilling. Let's hope it happens soon. As I said, the webinar will be made available on the website and on socials immediately after this event. And any questions we didn't get to today will be answered individually. Thank you once again, and thank you for participating in Noble Helium's quarterly webinar.
Yeah, pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.